This is the Marathon Handbook podcast. I'm your host, Michael Doyle. I am joined by my co-hosts, Katelyn, Tocci, Alex Sear. Today, gang, we are going to transform this podcast into let's see if I can thread the needle here, Half Marathon Handbook podcast. See what I'm doing here?
See,
yes.
Well done. Mm-hmm.
We are going to provide you, the audience, with a complete primer on the distance that is known as the half marathon. And here's a tease for you, gang. A little homework for you to nest in the back of your minds as we go through the science and history of the half marathon, some recommendations for bucket list halves, how to train for a half marathon, our experiences with the half marathon, how to prep race week, race psychology for the half and how it differentiates from other distances, recovery from the half marathon, you name it, we've got you covered. But at the end, we're also going to, and I surprised you guys with this about 2 seconds before hitting record. We're going to rebrand the name Half Marathon because it is not half an experience. That's for damn sure. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to hearing what clever concepts you've come up with and what brilliant names we can submit them to the authorities on high so that we can change it from the half marathon to something else. Okay, gang. So the half marathon. Let's jump right into it. Half marathon. History of it. Kind of a weird distance. Basically came into being, I'd say do we have a first half marathon on record? This was a deep dive. We went down the rabbit hole of the internet trying to figure this one out. Not an easy one to figure. But Mr. Sear, I think you've discovered perhaps the origin story of the half, maybe?
Yeah. So crazy enough, goes way back to ancient Greece. Pheidippides had a little brother, Philip. And so both of them had to run from the city of Marathon to Athens, but Philip got a sore knee and stopped halfway. And so while the marathon was created, the half marathon was also created because Phillips couldn't make it the whole way. No.
So Pheidippides runs the whole way, dies at the end. I believe he's running naked as well, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, Philip was fine, because he was fine. Mm-hmm. 21 kilometers was totally fine. He left in shorts, he finished in shorts, went back home, had a nice meal. Some would say he was the brightest of the two. Now, okay.
Recovered 2 or 3 days later and then did another one about 6 weeks after that.
Yeah. You can, why not be like Philip? Everyone goes straight to the marathon. Just entertain the half for a little while. Don't do the full before you're not ready. Anyway.
Pheidippides. Okay.
Pheidippides. We also have a real story.
Okay, please.
Fast forward, to the 1960s.
to the 1960s, it's the earliest half marathon that we could detect. And it happened in the faraway land of Luxembourg. It was called
Sorry, it didn't mean to laugh at Luxembourg.
Yeah, what's
apologies to our Luxembourg listener.
Listener,
you said one.
yeah. France from Luxembourg. I see you in the comments. It happened in the city of Remich in Luxembourg, and it's called the Route du Vin Half Marathon. So the path of wine, the road of wine. And fun fact about this half marathon, I think it still exists. There are results that date as recently as 2024, but the first edition happened in 1962. And it's a pretty fast course as far as I can tell. The race progressed up until last year, and the course records are super elite. Leonard Langat ran a 59-minute half there in 2010. And so it's still a fast race. And another first that happened at the Route du Vin Half Marathon in 2009, the women's winner, Chitaye Gemechu, was disqualified after testing positive for EPO, becoming the first Ethiopian woman to be banned for doping. So,
oh, really? Wow,
yeah.
that's a neat little historical note right there. Only 2010. No, wait, 2009 you said.
2009. Mm-hmm. But so it's still a pretty young distance as far as we're concerned. Obviously, it's not an Olympic event, right? So it doesn't have all of that history. If this is right, it's barely 60 years old. It will turn 64 this year. So I'm not big on New Year's resolutions, but I do admit to having one for 2026. And that is to go all in on running, mileage, gym, sleep, all of it, because I actually feel like I'm getting close to my lifetime goals and I don't want to squander this opportunity. Now, I feel like running has gone really well for me in the last year because I finally started to take my diet and nutrition seriously. And a big part of that was to finally get on Momentous products. I started taking their flavorless creatine and then their recovery beverage that's high in protein and then their pre-workout fuel all in early 2025. And that's made a big difference for me. And I love their stuff so much that we actually partnered with them. And today they sponsor this podcast and I eat their creatine chews like candy. Now, before this, I was never a big supplements guy. There's a lot of contaminated crap out there that makes it nearly impossible to know what you're putting in your body. What I liked about Momentous is that their product is independently certified by NSF for Sport or Informed Sport. Right now, Momentous is offering your listeners up to 35% off your first order with promo code MARATHON. So head to livemomentous.com and use promo code MARATHON for up to 35% off your first order. That's livemomentous.com, promo code MARATHON. Back to the show.
So we should note that, the half marathon as a concept really, I think, took hold in a big way in the aughts, the 2000s, the decade we're still struggling to name, when there was the baby boomer running boom took place, and it became, I think, a preferential distance and grew exponentially. Absolutely crazy. I would even argue perhaps participation-wise more popular than the marathon during that phase between 2000 and say 2010 or 15 or so. I have a hypothesis, guys. I have a theory here, which is pre-super shoes, pre-modern understanding of nutrition during a race. The marathon was sort of branded as really, really difficult and only for a certain class of runner. And the barrier to entry seemed very, very steep. And I think the half marathon as a concept and as an event really took off because of that. And the marathon was like the thing that the weird person in your office or your strange uncle did. And it was like, wow, they run marathons. And then everyone else decided that the half marathon or the 10K was good enough for them.
Well, Amby always tells us that when he was running, that group of people, his group of friends, that they were looked at as like the outcasts. Like, what are these guys doing? Why are they running so much? Like, they were kind of the outsiders.
Weirdos.
And the weirdos. And that he tells us that all the time. He tells us that story. So yeah, I think you're totally on the right track, because it seemed like it was only for like this small group of people. And let's not forget, when were women even allowed to join the marathon? That was super late as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, and actually, interestingly enough, when you look at participation data, Running USA has some information, although it's getting pretty stale now. It goes back about 10 years when they were doing a big survey. And then also World Athletics has a state of running survey from 2018, where I'm pulling some information as well, where at the time, the half marathon was hugely popular in 2016 in the US, where just over 2 million people participated just under 2 million people participated in the half. But that was down from just a couple of years before when they did a survey as well, where it was over 2 million people. So even 10 years ago, it was trending slightly downward, but it was still this massive, massive event that I think dwarfed overall participation numbers for the marathon as well. It's just also an easier event to run, right? You can recover more quickly from it. It's not as complex to wrap your mind around in terms of like the volume of training you have to do. And we'll talk about this later when we talk about training in detail. The long runs aren't as daunting to take on as well. Alex Sear, you're sort of our...
you're a half marathon guy.
Yeah, you're our area expert. You're our athlete in residence right now for the marathon, for the half marathon distance. Why for you is the marathon such an alluring and captivating distance that you've taken on as your big project in the last like year and a half or so?
The half, well, for me, it's kind of a step along the way. I think I've talked about this a couple times before on this podcast, and I think it's relevant to a lot of people. You see this more in competitive running circles, but I think everyone should think this way. I'm not going to hide it.
Whoa. Okay.
What many people are doing, and I think you've alluded to this, Michael, is that the half marathon became very popular because it felt like an entry point to a greater or at least longer distance goal, which is the marathon. And now in a short-term way, since the pandemic, a lot of these new runners who wanted to become marathoners went through their half marathoning phase, and now they're doing the marathon. I think that's the right way to go about it, but I think people should start earlier. That's what I'm doing. I was a track runner in college, and after that, I progressed to the 5K, the 10K, and now I'm just in that step along the way. That's the half marathon. I think I'm physiologically built for it. Like, I'm better at the half than I think I have been at the mile and the 5K. But for me, it's a step, and I do want to do the marathon in the next couple of years. But I think that's how people should look at it, and I think they should respect every single step. And if that's where you are along the way, do your best to run a good half before really challenging the full. But that being said, in each step that you're in, you start to notice the fun little quirks and parts of the step. So for example, what I love about the half marathon is that at the level that I'm at, there's kind of one thing that you have to do to run a good half, and that is really increase your threshold pace. And that's, and we're gonna talk a bit about that.
You're giving away the next part.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that, so I don't want to too much, but that's what's been really fun about it, is to really train that one aspect of my running. And on a more social side, it's been a cool exit from the world of track, which is quite esoteric in pretty much everywhere outside of college. In college, it's everything. And then when you're gone from college, you just feel like you're competing against a bunch of 20-year-olds. Whereas the half feels more like an entry into the bona fide road racing world, which for a 30-year-old like me is a lot more appealing and fun. You can travel to a lot of places. I'm half respected at like work-related parties when I tell people I've done a half marathon and not a full. People used to just glaze over when I told them, like, I run a really fast 10K. They'd be like, oh, that's cool. My aunt runs a marathon, so maybe if you want some tips, you can ask her. Now they think I'm like half legit, and so that's also kind of fun. But yeah, I don't know. I've done, I think, 4 half marathons now. I've done 5 half marathons now, and I plan to do a couple more before I give the marathon a fair shake.
I find this so interesting because I have a completely different outlook. Like
on the half?
On the half. Like it's absolutely opposite. I think so. This is going to be great. Because
you're gonna be
I
like,
don't see it as a stepping stone.
Short.
No, actually, it's funny because you would think that, but I think of it very differently. I think that whatever distance that you specialize in, and all of the distances are, to me, seem equally as hard, because if you put the same amount of effort into each of the distances, I feel like they could be a stepping stone, like you're saying, absolutely. But I feel like it doesn't have to be a stepping stone. And I remember this because when I started ultra running way back when, and I was really I'm still really into the trail world, but I was becoming part of the trail community. I remember that no matter what race I went to, I was always going to run the longest distance in that race. So if there was a 10K, a 21K, a 50K, an 80K, I was going to run the 80K. If there's a 100K, I was going to run the 100K. If there's a 100 miler, I'd run the 100 miler. And I remember some of the other trail runners or some very excellent trail runners at shorter distances who were extremely fast. I remember them saying, or, making the comments that, but it's a whole different ball game when you run the shorter distances because the skill set is so different. And they were incredibly right. So it made me start to respect the shorter distances that much more. And that's when I started going back to the shorter distances, running those, failing at them over and over again and saying, okay, now I've got to backtrack because I want to become good at these, at these distances as well. And so I think, you love the 10K and you want to keep breaking down that time and get the fastest 10K you can get, like you did, Alex, get that sub 30 10K, and you are a 10K expert. I have just as much like wow factor for people who are running those super fast 10Ks to anyone who's who's taken on the marathon. So I think that the half marathon is a fantastic difference and distance. And I know we'll get into all the whys, but just it's a harder effort than the marathon. So you have to push a whole lot more in a half marathon, right? You're almost in that threshold area where you have to really, really push. It's not like when you run the marathon, you're like, okay, I've got to get to the halfway point comfortable. This is like gloves come off and it's a whole nother ball game. So I think that I don't see the marathon as just only a stepping stone. I see it as though if this is the distance that you really want to sink your teeth into, it's a fantastic distance to become an amazing athlete.
Yeah. Great. Perfect segue. You set the table for me, Katelyn. It's like,
okay.
Is the half, this is a legitimate question I'm asking myself as we've been prepping for this episode, where I'm like, is the half marathon the perfect running distance? Is it, is it a more profoundly like clean concept than say the big, burly, complicated marathon? I mean, that's a legitimate question. I'm actually curious what our audience thinks about this. If you have an opinion, a point of view, we want to hear it. So make sure you put it in the comments. Like my little tease there, to like just comment, let us know. Because I personally, you guys know how I feel about the marathon. I'm like, the marathon is like a life's work for me, right? It's like, I feel like the marathon is like the great American novel or whatever. It's like Moby Dick, it's like, it's this complex kind of unruly thing that I love to think about. It's near impossible to execute a perfect marathon, but it's this endless quest of trying to get as close to it as possible. Whereas the half, I mean, Alex just did it recently, like a few weeks ago. It's fresh on your mind. You nailed a perfect half. And I think I don't want to say, I'm not diminishing what you did there, big guy, but it's like, I think it's more possible to hit a half and to nail it and to feel really good about it. And to get like almost 100% out of what you put into your training for a half marathon versus the marathon, which is just like you get maybe 2 shots every year at the marathon. There's so much training goes into it. You're so much at the mercy of the weather and all these other factors and whether your tummy is going to stay on side and all this stuff. And you get a cold, you're screwed. Where it's like the half, you can do multiple a year without worry, and you can run them very intensely as well, which we'll talk about when we talk about the training in a second. Let's get into, let's take a quick break. When we come back, talk a little bit about what we know of the science and the physiology, the exercise science behind the half marathon and how it might differ from, say, 5K, 10K, and then on the other side, how it differs from its partial namesake, the marathon. We will be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Rocket Money, a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. I used to forget to cancel subscriptions all the time. Now with the Rocket Money app, I can track those subscriptions, cancel them right in the app with a few taps, and save that money for more important things, like my upcoming wedding. Or a fresh new pair of Puma Fast Star Nitro Elite 3s. In the app, you can set budgets and goals, get personalized insights and regular reports, and receive real-time alerts for large transactions, upcoming bills, refunds, and low balances. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/go-run. That's rocketmoney.com/go-run.
And we're back. Key question for both of you. It's like a major like kinesiology question, sports sciencey question, but it's also kind of a philosophical question and a psychological question too. Is the half marathon more a 10K-esque experience or a marathon-esque experience?
I have a
Discuss.
degree in kinesiology and a minor in psychology. So,
so you go first, Alex. Take it away.
You're welcome, guys. Yeah, I'm going to
answer the question.
Okay.
Is it more a 10K or a marathon effort? You know what? Like, okay, I'll be honest. I think it depends on how long it takes you to run the half. I actually think that matters.
Yeah.
For elite runners, a half marathon is the new 10K. I do think. And here's why. There's a study that came out 2017 that looked at the predictors to high performance marathon finishes. And they found two things that predicted a good half marathon. One is very obvious. Your VO2 max, okay, your capacity to use oxygen, which is incredibly important in most distances that we know. The second finding was a bit more confusing and unexpected. And that's your anaerobic ability, like your ability to essentially sprint, which in a marathon, we kind of know that that's not that useful. If you can sprint really fast, maybe that means you're athletic and maybe in a sense that might help you a little bit, but anaerobic ability is not necessarily something that we've come to know is important for the marathon. It is, however, somewhat important in a 10K and even more so in a 5K and then as the distances go down. And so that kind of suggests that your ability to run fast might help you run a good half marathon. And we see it in practice. If you're able to run at threshold pace, the pace before going lactic, so, as they say, when your legs just start to really hurt out of nowhere, if you can hold that threshold pace for a long time, you'll probably be good at the half marathon. And as you get fitter, that threshold pace gets faster and then you get quicker. And these men and women who are running 59 minutes for the half and 65 minutes respectively, they're treating it more as a 10K than a full. And also, and I think one of you alluded to this before the break, the number of variables. The marathon is a game of variables. So much can happen. You can deplete your glycogen stores. In the 10K, that doesn't necessarily happen. And in the half marathon either, if you are on that fast that group in that group of fast runners. In fact, I know a lot of pros who don't fuel during the half marathon. I don't even fuel during the half. They'll take stuff before, but not during.
You're killing my questions here, man. I was going to add, we're going to get to that. We're going to talk about fueling, whether or not you should, when you should, and when you shouldn't, in terms of how much time you're going to be on the course for, whether each of you fuels. Alex already spoiled that aspect of things. He does not fuel. But we do have a follow-up question, which is, do you know anyone in your ability level, because you're quite quick, do you know anyone in your ability level who does? And are you considering it in the future as you're trying to, as the learning curve gets, the curve gets steeper for you in terms of improvement goes from minutes to seconds, right? Yeah. Katelyn, what do you think? You think you're
definitely 10K.
Yeah. You're starting a half marathon. 10K. You're like, this is balls to the wall. I'm going for it.
This is I'm going to die during this race. I'm just going to push to the max. So I think absolutely. I think it's half the distance of the marathon. So you can just push that much harder. I mean, you can just really, really go at a different intensity level for the half marathon. So I would say definitely I categorize it as a much faster, more intense race, rather than the marathon, which is so much strategy involved. I mean, we will talk about half marathon strategy as well today, but you just have to put so much more effort into your marathon strategy because it's just that much longer. So yeah, I completely agree with Alex.
Let's break the experience down into phases here for a second for our audience, especially if you've never run a half marathon before or you're relatively new to it and you're like, I just ran my first half marathon last fall, and it felt like bad, worse, walking, death, and then recovery with a beer or something. So let's go through what maybe it should feel like, because as we both, and I agree with both of you, I think that it is much closer to, it is a close sibling to a 10K. And weirdly, it was named after that relative that has no resemblance to more or less. And, it's less half marathon, definitely more 10K in terms of spirit and experience. Actually, I'll share a little personal anecdote with you guys first, which is, because I didn't mention in the first segment at all anything about my background and experience with half marathons.
Oh, you did a half? I thought you came out of the womb a marathoner.
I came out of the womb as a 38-year-old guy with a beard. Feel bad for my mom. Bearded baby's a bit weird.
Didn't want to get out.
And just I had the 3-inch split shorts on and a singlet, and I was ready to go. Timex watch, no Garmin, and ready to run a marathon. Anyway, I actually came into distance running. I've longtime audience members have heard my stupid story of how I got into figuring out training in the 2000s with the 10K a day
all out
time
10Ks.
trial. Yes, yes. The run the gauntlet at 10 p.m. every night, 5 days a week. When I finally realized my idiocy and changed my ways and started exploring training, the very first race I think I targeted was a half marathon. And I think it's because of the brand, like half marathon, like, one day maybe the marathon. That's the big kind of prize, the big challenge that's got the social cachet. It's got the kind of like the history to it, the intrigue, the fear factor as well of like, could I even do this? How well could I do this? And the half marathon was like, oh, that seems reasonable. And then you go out and you can also run it in practice. So you kind of, another question for you guys. What is a long run in a half marathon? We'll get to that in the training section in the next segment. Just
for the audience,
this
is going to be
today.
5 hours today. We've got a lot to get through.
No,
so
they're going to be long. They're going to hang in there for the ride.
Settle in.
Will this podcast be longer than any of us runs a half marathon in? Alex, for sure.
Yeah, I got about 27 minutes left here,
me
guys.
And Katelyn, maybe. Yeah. Oh boy, here we go. He gets 3 brags.
How many have I burned?
Katelyn. Then we put that you're
2.
I've burned.
You're 2.
No,
So we mute you after the third one.
Mm-hmm.
So I got into it through the half marathon with the idea of like maybe eventually I'll try a marathon. And it only a few years after running marathons and then running half marathons kind of as a prep race mid-season in my marathon build or 2/3 of the way through the season. We'll talk about that as a strategy as well down the line. Did I realize that like the half marathon itself is its own worthy goal and its own module, its own project. And at one point I did take an entire season and just trained for a half to smash a half. And that is when I discovered you can't run this thing like you run a marathon psychologically, strategically, in terms of the pace and the effort. You got to go at this thing hard and you got like kilometer 1, you need to be hitting your split.
Yep.
And it's sort of like a 5 or a 10K where it's like you need to be on mission from the first kilometer and you need to be hitting a number and it's not going to feel super comfortable ever. And you're going to get into like 15K and you're going to be like getting a little bit squirrely and you're kind of feeling like the early space shuttle getting launched into and cutting through the atmosphere and trying to get into space, and your things are kind of rattling a little bit and the bolts are kind of starting to come off a little bit and you're holding on for dear life.
Sometimes you're Apollo 13.
You got to do the slingshot method to get back to the finish line. Okay. So yes, in sum, you got to run this sucker more like a 10K than you got to run it like a marathon. So let's talk a little bit about experience, about patience, about structure, about whether or not you need to have any patience. How do you, Katelyn, when you're coaching somebody for a half marathon, how do you talk to them on race week about like breaking down the race incrementally into like stages? Like, how do you structure it? Is it like every 5K? Is it like the first 10K, the second 10K, and then the last mile, the last kilometer, you just send it? Like,
just go for it.
What's your thinking in terms of how it's organized?
Like you said, Michael, since it's not, because in the marathon, I think when I put together strategies with my athletes, there's a little more wiggle room. So we start out a little bit slower and we kind of like, ramp up as we go. With the half marathon, like you just mentioned, if you're an experienced runner, you're starting out at the pace that you've practiced over and over and over again, right? That's going to be close to your threshold pace or your half marathon pace, depending on your experience, your fitness level. It's going to be just a tad bit over that. It's going to be a tad bit slower than that. So the pace that you've decided that we have decided on and we have practiced the whole cycle through and we've decided on and said, okay, this is it. I feel like I can hold this. We're going to start right around there. So the most important thing to be able to start off at that pace is to warm up a lot before, you've got to get your warm up in. You can't just show up to the half marathon and run. I mean, you shouldn't do that at any race anyway, but the half marathon, since we're not going to have that usual, I like to give like a nice 5K at the beginning of a marathon where you kind of get into your groove. And so you kind of feel like even though you've warmed up a little, you have a little bit of time. In the half marathon, there's no time. So you're just going to kind of get into it. Maybe if the athlete feels a little more comfortable starting like 5 seconds slower than the pace, we could do that for the first 5K or so, settle in around 10K. And then with, that last 5K, I mean, of course, we love to say this and we love to dream it. But if you have anything left in the tank for that last 5K and you want to turn it up a notch, you can absolutely go ahead and just kind of hold on to whatever you can, for that last chunk of it. So I would say, I think about the 5K, perhaps if someone wants just a smidge under what the planned pace is, but not much, and then just jump right into it. And then you've got, the next 15K, at pretty much your half marathon pace that you've practiced. And if you can, kick it at the end.
Are you a fade from the front guy, Alex, or are you trying to even split it? Are you trying to slight negative split it? Like we've read so much literature about the marathon and how a very slight negative split has produced the best performance outcomes for runners really of all stripes. Is that the case for the half or no?
No. Well, there's nothing in my experience. Yeah, there's no big study about the half. So the drawback of the half being the little brother of the marathon is that there hasn't been as much scientific interest around it. So you get into a race, you kind of just have to figure it out yourself. I very much try to be even. I've done 5 half marathons. One of them I treated as a bit of a progressive type experiment. The other 4, I had the same goal, and it was to choose a pace, make sure it feels good from the start, and then try to lock in until the end. And almost every time I go out too hard and then bleed and then just try to make it near the end. So I end up being a bit of a fade from the front guy without really trying to be. I think it's like it's a weird zone because you do hope to be, you hope to feel good at the start, but there is that sense of urgency that doesn't exist in the marathon. Like when I heard that marathoners don't really warm up and they kind of just roll into the race, man, the half is not like that. The half hurts from the start, but then it doesn't get worse for a really long time. So that allows you to be pretty much even split it. My coach, John, has a saying for the half, and that's what he told me before my first race. And it's that it shouldn't really hurt before 15K. In the last 6K, that's when you start to grind. But if you're in deep at 10K, 12K, you've probably cooked yourself a little bit.
For a long haul. Yeah.
It's not the same because I know it's that 5K less, but the 10 miler that I just ran, it's close. It's getting there. I think that 5K less is really a beautiful thing. But I kind of felt the same way. I used almost the same pacing strategy because I said, okay, I can go out hard, but it still has to be sustainably hard. It's got to be at lactate threshold. If I go even a hair over that, I am toast. And so you do have to take that precaution, like you're saying, Alex, like get 3/4 of the way through. Even though it feels hard, you cannot let the wheels start to fall off until that last 5K.
Yeah, I would say we're sort of putting the cart before the horse here because we're talking about basically like in-race strategy now. But let's just go for it and talk about that. Then we'll circle back in the next segment and talk about some of the training aspects of it, as well as some of the race week stuff like prep, that final workout that you might want to do to kind of like inject a little extra fuel in race day for yourself. And then also, whether or not you need a carb load and that sort of thing. And then recovery. I would say my experience has always been, and this aligns this so elegantly aligns with what your coach John has been saying to you about the half, which is I think there's a hinge point in a well-run half marathon, and that hinge point is between 15 and 16 kilometers. I think at kilometer 15, almost universally a well-trained athlete will think to themselves, this is going really well. It's a little bit hard, it's intense, but I'm breathing regularly. I'm feeling really good. Should I just run faster? This is crazy how good this is. And then 1 kilometer later, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This suddenly someone has like tightened the vice grip on my head. Someone has dropped the Acme anvil on me, like whatever analogy you want to use. But like this just suddenly feels like I have an anchor chained to my ankle and I've just thrown it off the side of the boat here and I'm just struggling. And that is perfectly normal in the half marathon. It's a very common experience. And in a way, like you kind of, if as long as you don't really fade hard, you've kind of probably done it sort of right if you feel that way. I hate to say it, but it's like there's definitely a battle where you're feeling a little bit like you're in quicksand at around 10 miles in the half marathon. And that's just I mean, I guess this depends on your ability level, but that I think it's a pretty universal experience for someone who is prepped to run a certain pace and is executing at that pace. And you just need to sort of weather that storm of 1-ish or 2-ish kilometers to get to the other side. And then you can kind of get within, I'd say 2 miles or 3 and change kilometers, about 18K. And then it's like, okay, the end is within sight.
Yep.
Flick on the homing beacon and just force yourself through the last few kilometers and tell yourself whatever mental, emotional tricks you want to use to get through that. My thing is always like, I'm like, I have done workouts at this length. I can handle it. I can run. Or I do the incremental, like break it down into like just 1 kilometer repeats in my mind where I'm like, just do another kilometer at this pace and then do another kilometer at this pace. And then,
oh, that's a good one. I like that.
then last kilometer, I'm running home. I'm running to the finish line and then I'm done.
It's like a soundtrack. You could put it into 3 soundtrack. I'm just realizing this now. There's like 3 phases to the half marathon. The first 15K is like soft pop, Bruno Mars, like pretty Bruno Mars shit.
So it's shit. The first phase is shit.
You, baby. That stuff. Ks 15 to 18 is like the soundtrack to a horror movie. It's like suspense, right? Like person's going to the closet.
It's like John Carpenter. It's like, it's like synthesizers and kind of
creepy old house. Don't go in the closet, like that kind of stuff. And then 18 to 21, the last 2 miles is death metal. Just so much noise. This is so hard. Don't think about it. Just get there.
Yes.
That sounds good. Yeah.
It's like, you're right. It's like the first chunk is, I don't mean to disparage Mr. Mars.
You always hate on Bruno Mars. I think he's fantastic.
I love Bruno Mars. Oh yeah. Great stuff.
If I had to listen to Bruno Mars, I'd be like, I don't want to, like during a run, I'd be like, I don't want to run anymore. But it's like, it's easy going. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's a little intense. It's upbeat.
It's positive, upbeat. Yeah, exactly.
There's like a funk sort of like drive to
funk.
It.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
well see done, what you did there.
Well done. And then phase 2, you're right. Phase 2 feels foreboding. It's intense. Yeah, it's like
like Fallout
Nails.
Boy. Like what? Just something like really intense and loud.
It's just like building.
Maybe Green Day is a good one.
And then
no, more intense. We need Metallica. I don't know. I need something more intense than Green Day.
Yeah, it's like approaching the end result you're talking about, Alex, where it's just like the needle drop is death metal. You're right. It's just like all out assault. It's early Metallica. It's like thrash. And you're just like, what the heck is going on? This is chaos. I need to hang on for dear life. I feel like, the feeling that you have when you're running and that kind of like lactate hell where you're just like, you feel like you're flailing and your form is all gone to complete garbage. But in reality, you look at like a video or a photo of yourself and you're like,
it's never as bad as you think it is.
I looked. Yeah. That's the feeling that you kind of should have, I think, in order to get the most out of it. Okay. Let's take a quick break and then we'll pivot into talking about proper training. We've totally put the last part first, but we'll talk about training. We'll talk about the specific training approach. Say if you're going to do like a full block to train for a goal race or half marathon. Hey, we've got Alex Sear here. He just did that for 16 weeks. So we'll break down what Alex has done and what you can glean from that at any level you're at as a runner. We'll talk about like long runs. Like what should you do a long run for a half? What is a long run for a half marathon? What is a long run?
Oh,
What is long,
uh-oh.
guys?
Here we go.
We did that last week.
What is time?
What is that?
Okay. Okay, and then we'll talk about fueling and recovery, and then we'll throw out a couple of bucket list halves that we have been circling ourselves that look like they would be a lot of fun. Okay, we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. We're going to talk now all about training, prep for a half marathon. We're not going to get into training like the really nitty gritty. We're not going to break down a 16-week training cycle for you. We've got plans for that, and we will include those in the show notes. We'll include links to the litany of various different training plans for different goal times that we've got for the half marathon specifically on our site. And Katelyn Tocci has generously constructed today's newsletter, Thursday's newsletter. Our podcast goes out on Thursday mornings at 5:05 Eastern time, along with the newsletter. Today's newsletter is chock full of half marathon related subject matter, beautifully curated. So if you've not subscribed to the newsletter, by all means do so. We'll put a link in the show notes for that one as well. It's just marathonhandbook.com/newsletter. It's where you can subscribe. We're nearing 300,000 subscribers.
Let's go.
Gang. That's a lot of humans.
Oh, awesome.
You ever get nervous, Katelyn, when you're crafting the newsletter and you're like, this is going to, when we hit send on this, it's going to go out to over 250,000 real live human beings who
I
are
really
judging
do.
your
Because I see it.
grammar skills.
Don't mix up your
Because
theirs and theirs.
Exactly. Because when I schedule it, that's when I see it. Because it says, okay, this is scheduled to go to your 285,000. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope I didn't make a mistake.
Are you
Totally.
sure?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So, half marathon training.
Let's do it.
Do you guys, first meta question here. Do you guys think the half marathon deserves the same level of attention and all-in commitment to training that the marathon gets?
Yes. Yeah.
Of course.
Well, it's like Katelyn said earlier, if you take each race seriously, they're all equally important. It's just the things you focus on are different. In the half, you need to worry a little bit more about your speed. Yeah. But yes.
And I think like the one difference would be if you want to run a half marathon and you still want to run it really well and focus on it, the volume is less than a marathon. So that's one of the big differences. So, I mean, you can train for a bit less time because you won't have those massive long runs, which we'll get into. But I think you could do it with with a day or two here, less a week if you wanted to. But I think a lot of very experienced, I'm sure, Alex, you run 6 days a week, right? Training for the half marathon?
6 to 7, yeah.
See. There you go. There you go.
Of course. Yes.
So
Yes, and I guess like the misconception that I come across sometimes, and I agree with that, it's the lower, the reduced volume will buy you more time to chill out between sessions in a half versus a full, that's for sure. But the misconception that I come across is that you don't have to take care of the little things around your training as much if you're just training for a half marathon. It's not that serious. You don't have to worry about your diet so much. Sleep won't matter so much. It matters as much. Absolutely. If you care about your performance, even if you're training for a 5K, those things will factor in just as much as if you're training for a full.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because I think the half marathon, like what you're doing, you're just focusing, like you said, on different things. So if it's more intensity, it's almost going to tire you out just as much as if it's more volume for marathon training. So I think you have to focus on it the same way you would a marathon and put the same amount of effort into it and take care of all those little things as well.
Alex, you just did a full 16 weeks of dedicated training for the Houston Half Marathon, which you ran in January. We'll give you one last bow where you ran a impressive personal best, and you are now a 63. You're a 63 guy. You're not a 103 guy. You're a 63
Does
guy.
this count as one of my brags if like you do it for me?
No, we're giving you this one.
So I still
We're
have
giving
one
you this
left in the show.
Yeah, we will not mute you yet. Yes. So you've done a 16-week build. would you say that, and you're obviously quite familiar with what us marathon hacks are up to, would you say that overall, if you were to do a side-by-side, and Katelyn, I want to hear your take on this one as well, as Coach Katelyn here, and as runner Katelyn, when you do the side-by-side of plans, when you're like 16-week training build for the marathon, 16-week training build for a half marathon, is the sort of, we're not talking like, obviously volume will come down a bit, length of long run will come down a bit, but other than that, are they looking fairly similar sort of philosophically in terms of their structure, their mesocycles, which is that fancy word for a block of training within the overall 16-week block? Do they look very similar?
They do with that reduced mileage. I think there are two key differences for me. One I think is more personal, but one I think is more widespread. So the problem with the marathon is you get one shot. Every 16-week block, you get one shot. In a year, you may get two shots. That's so much pressure. I've never liked that. When I was a kid, there was a cross-country high school championship. So that was your one shot to prove to all your friends that you were a good runner. And if you didn't do well, you had to wait till next year. The stakes were so high. Marathon feels to be that way. But with the half, not only can you do a tune-up 5K or 10K like people like to do in the weeks leading up to a full marathon, you can do another half marathon. In the 16-week build, I ran 3 halves. I wouldn't recommend you run 3. The first one was that little progressive experiment that I mentioned earlier. I think a perfect 16-week training build has a half marathon in the middle. So that's what I did in the build up to Houston. On week 8, I ran the Philadelphia half marathon, and that gave me a good benchmark. And then what it did for me was by the time I got to Houston, I already had the confidence that I could at least run the time that I did in Philly. And I think that allowed me to take that next step. The other difference is, and this is the one that I say is a bit personal, because tapering is deeply personal. I've come to accept. Some people do well off huge tapers. Others do well on very little tapers. It seems that a lot of marathoners take tapering incredibly seriously, and they're also coming down from higher in terms of mileage. And so for a lot of people, it ends up being this jarring experience, not only emotionally, like, we like to joke about, but also physically. You go from running huge miles to like running a couple times in a week, trying not to do any workouts. I actually didn't taper that much in terms of intensity. I just reduced my workouts on the week of the half marathon. And that was the big difference. Like, I think what I did was Tuesday, 2 by 10 minutes of threshold running, which was bread and butter for me in the marathon training. And then Thursday, 3 by 5 minutes of threshold. And then the race was on Sunday. So it wasn't as pronounced of a taper.
You just did my work for me. You just did the perfect segue into discussing race week. But before we get into that in more detail, I want to come back to that in a second here. Katelyn, in terms of coaching an athlete, like, let's talk broader spectrum here. Let's talk about like the 1 hour, 30-minute half marathon or the 2 hour marathon, like the person who's trying to run 1:59:59 or bust. Someone who's doing their first half marathon, they have no idea what, they're just like, I'm just going to run this thing. And I've got some benchmarks as to maybe what I could do based on workouts. And I feel ready, but I don't know if I'm going to run under 2 hours. I don't know if I'm going to run 1:45. I have no idea, which is like the most magical place to be in running. But what's your, what's the approach like for you? Is it similar to how you would structure a marathon build for an athlete?
Yeah. So, I'm going to start with like the mesocycles that I'm going to have is we're going to start with speed. We're going to do thresholds. We're going to do race pace stuff. We're going to do, and whether that's pacing as in the actual paces or RPE, if it's a newer runner, right? Because if it's a newer runner, we're not going to have those estimates and we're not going to stress about a specific pace during that training block. We're going to work on how you feel, right? A half marathon for me is like a 6, because a marathon is like a 5 out of 10. So the half marathon would be around that area of a 6. So we would be working on, the setup would be very, very similar. The taper for a newer runner, or for most half marathon runners, I would give a 2-week taper. For marathon runners, I usually give a 3-week taper. So you have, a little less of a taper. And as Alex mentioned, I do leave speed, right? Because when you're tapering, it's not that you need to stop working out or that you really need to bring everything down to baseline. What you want to do is just gradually decrease your mileage, but the intensity for most of us can stay. So it's nice to have those intense workouts to really feel fine-tuned for the race. And so even up until race week, of course, my training plans are highly individualized. So it'll definitely have to do with the athlete that I'm training. But for a general spectrum, usually most athletes could do I would do a Tuesday workout still. And then the rest of the week would be on the easier side, maybe some strides the Thursday of that same week. But I would say that you can usually keep the intensity up until the end, but really, really cut back on the mileage. Also, what's going to be different for beginner or more advanced runners is the long run, right? The longest long run. What are we going to do? Because you could have someone who's running their first half marathon during their peak week. We might not even get up to the full half marathon distance, right? So we might do, 8 miles, 9 miles, 10 miles. It's all going to depend on how long the build was and how each athlete is progressing. And someone much more advanced, we're going to do over the half marathon mileage, right? So we might be doing 14, 15, right? Getting up to 25K, 26K. So we'll go over the mileage of the half marathon for the peak week. So I think it's important, we got to take all of those different factors into consideration depending on the experience level and the fitness level of each of those athletes. But yes, pretty much the structure of the mesocycles will be similar to that of the marathon, just with those little specificities that we need to do for half marathon work.
Can I add one more thing that is different from any other distance that I've trained for? And it's the specificity of the workouts that you do. For when you train for a track mile or a 5K or a 10K or a marathon, there seems to be a rotation of workouts that you do. You'll be working on your speed. You'll be doing hills. You'll be doing some marathon pace stuff. You'll be testing a lot of different energy systems. And I think there's room for fast stuff like hills for strength and half marathon training. But what seems to be working for me is for most workouts to be half marathon specific, because it's a pace that you can handle and recover from. If you're training for a 5K.
Oh, good point.
If you're training for a 5K, you're not always going to hammer 5K pace 2 to 3 times a week. You will flame out before race time.
Yeah.
And if you're training for the marathon.
That sounds horrible.
And if on the other side of things, if you're training for the marathon, you're not only going to do marathon pace, because you're leaving out a whole trove of speed and speed work that you can draw from and build on. The half is kind of in a middling place where if you get really good at running at half marathon pace, you get good at the half marathon. And the bonus is that it's easy to recover from those workouts and you can tackle it again in a few days. So I think that's maybe the key difference between half marathon training and any other race or training that I've done for any other race.
The one caveat I will add, and this is, you get another little, freebie here, Alex, another little braggy freebie here, which is your half marathon pace is dangerously close to lactate threshold, the concept of lactate threshold pace, which is how hard you can run all out for 1 hour evenly. And, you running all out hard for an hour evenly is very close to, you'd be like at 20 and change kilometers at this point, right? So I would say probably the one caveat for the rest of us behind you in the race is maybe there's probably a need for some focus on lactate threshold, on quite a bit of lactate threshold work in the half marathon, and which is similar to the marathon. I'd say the marathon. I'd say more modern marathon training that we're seeing in the last few years has accepted this idea that a lot of focus on lactate threshold work is really smart for producing a really efficient marathon runner. And that's definitely the case for the half marathon, and probably has been more normalized in half marathon training for a longer period of time. Question for you both. What do you think the biggest mistake is that a runner makes in training for a half? Not racing, training. And Alex, this is your opportunity by all means.
What did you do wrong?
What did you do wrong in the first couple that you've now learned the error in your ways and your naivety?
I feel like you're expecting a specific answer. Is there something I'm forgetting?
No, I'm not. I'm actually
God.
not.
It's not a trick. It's not a trick.
I feel like, will you talk about that stupid thing that you did? And I was like, wait, what is he talking about? The mistake. What's the mistake of a...
He's just mistake.
Yeah, no, that's
No, I mean-
a big one. I don't know.
Oh boy.
Nah, you know what? I think the common mistake, and I think this actually ties into the whole theme that's coming out of the show of where does the half marathon belong? Is it a 10K? Is it a full? It's neither. And I think I've seen people approach it too much like one of the other things. If you approach it like a marathon, you're not going to get the most out of yourself because you're not going to explore that level of intensity. And at the same time, if you underplay the half and you go into it at 10K effort, you're going to bite off way more than you can chew. You're going to be going out way too hard and you're not going to have a good experience. That's what Michael thought I was going to do because of that. That's actually a common thing to do. If you're coming from the track or the smaller races, you think, you know what, I can attack it, but it is slightly different. And only if you can rip a really fast 10K, it doesn't mean that you can rip a really fast half marathon. They are, at the end of the day, different races. So the mistake, I think, is you always hear people say, respect the marathon. You must respect the distance. I think the main mistake here is the same. People don't always respect the half marathon for what it is.
And maybe that's because it's called the half marathon. We're going to rebrand it in a second here. But Katelyn, what's something that like, especially newer runners that like, you're like, okay, this happened. Let's make sure we don't do this again.
Oh, if it's training, I don't know if this is going to be way out of left field. This isn't specific to the half marathon. When athletes think or runners think that they don't need to strength train because it's not as long as the marathon. And no, I don't need to be as strong. Like you need to strength train for absolutely any distance that you're deciding to run. It's not easier or less of a distance, which I know this is a theme that I keep bringing up, but it's its own hard. It's its own type of hard. And so being fit and strong for the half marathon is just as important. So don't do less of all the little things, right? Especially like strength training when you're training for the half marathon as you would for any distance.
I would say that strength training is like, if there's a distance where you want to be doing strength training, it would be the half marathon. I mean,
right?
It's like perfect sense to be doing strength training. Yeah. I think what I've encountered in my travels, in the running industry, in the running world, and as a runner myself is this idea that volume, you can just take a total vacation, especially if you're coming down from the marathon. This idea that you can take a season, not train for the marathon. You can kind of take a lighter season where you're just going to focus on a half, and there's not going to be that demand of volume. The long runs aren't going to be as long and as intense. You're not going to be grinding out all this bloody marathon pace for huge chunks of your long runs every week. That it's like this little it's like a little reprieve for marathon training. I think if you want to really nail a half marathon, I think you still have to do probably a huge percentage like of that volume that you would be doing in marathon training, like maybe 85% of the volume. And you still have to do pretty serious long runs. Let's talk briefly about the long run before we pivot into talking about just race day fueling and recovery as well, and race day execution and recovery. Long run, just Alex, what was your longest long run in the last season?
30 kilometers.
Oh,
30.
Oh, in the last season? No, that was the year before. This year, my longest long run was 27 kilometers.
Okay. Yeah.
What was the biggest chunk of like hard work you did in a long run? What was it?
There was a workout that doesn't sound all that sexy, but it's a killer of a workout. 40 minutes of threshold pace.
So 40 minutes of effectively your half marathon.
Half marathon pace.
Yeah,
In a
But
row
threshold
or
pace.
broken up?
Once was in a row. Once.
In the middle of the long run? In the middle of the long
because
run?
it ends up being a long run, and then you just do what I do is like I'll do like
A warm up.
15 minutes of warming up, and then I go into it as a workout, and then I do a long cool down. Which in the cool down I'm slow. You know, I'm running at a very leisurely pace. It's more so about the hard chunk than it is about the total distance. But yeah, you're crossing your 10K in a time that kind of makes you squeal, and then you hope that you have more left for whatever's left. And it's kind of if you're in good fitness, it's kind of a surreal workout because you hit numbers that, if you're doing it right, are pretty close to what you can run for your 10K personal best, likely. And even if your 10K is higher up in the 30s, you will have this type of feeling where you'll cross the 10K mark inside of a 40-minute threshold and say, oh my goodness, this is getting close to my race pace.
And if your 10K is north of the 40s, you're listening to this and you're like, F you, Alex. You're like, oh, I ran a 10K. And yeah. No, but I think it's all relative, of course, right? And what we can glean from that is half marathon, you still have to do a pretty meaty long run. It's not quite as grand in terms of distance and maybe overall effort as like your biggest long run in a marathon build. It's pretty damn close. It's closer than I think like someone new to the distance would be like half the race distance, half the effort, right? So not the case at all. And Katelyn, you like, what's kind of the upper echelon for you? Like, I know like trained, experienced half marathon or distance runner versus newer runner will be different, but just like some basic numbers for like the ceiling for a long.
Yeah, so maybe for a newer runner, we won't hit the highest if it's a first half marathon. Maybe we'll get to like 17, 18K, and then we'll just get that extra little bit at the actual race. And then for my experienced half marathoners, we're probably tapping out at like 20, between 24 and 26K. So close to what Alex was doing for his longest peak run. And I think that the biggest difference as well between the long runs with the marathon and the half marathon is also that we hit that, and Michael, I know you do a lot, you hit that 20-mile long run mark a bunch of times throughout the season. But maybe that like 27K that Alex mentioned, or that 25 or 26K, we'll probably just hit that once throughout the season and not do it over and over again, at least in the case with a lot of my athletes. So that's kind of like the max distance that we'll get for that peak week.
Let's talk about what is kind of a little bit of a murky, I don't want to say controversial because it's not controversial, but a bit of a murky topic that I think the science is still unclear about this. And even at an elite level, I think we're in kind of unknown territory with this right now, which is like fueling during a half marathon. Big question. Do you need to pack some snacks with you? Do you need to bring gels with you? You touched upon carb loading very briefly, Alex, when you were talking about race week. Very quickly, I think carb loading is really key to the half marathon. I think you don't have to be as like absolutely psycho as I am in the marathon in my carb load, but I think you should definitely be thinking about a carb rich glycogen topping effort for a couple of days before your half goal race. Yeah, do you both agree with that?
I do it before my halves. You show up with a low glycogen store, you're asking for trouble. Yes, for sure.
You're toast before you start. Yeah. I agree with you. It's like also starting a race mildly dehydrated or something as well. It's just not a good idea. Like you need to show up fueled and hydrated no matter what it is. And I agree, a day or two before, just switch out a bunch of that protein and the usual, vegetables or, fats that you eat with more carbohydrates, and you'll definitely be well on your way. And I think it's I'm sure it's just as important, but even more important for the half, because you're probably, or some of us aren't going to fuel as much during that half marathon. So you just have to show up really raring and ready to go, with those stores topped off. So I want to hear, because Michael, I know how you fuel or not fuel so much during the marathon. So what have you done for the marathons that you've run?
I'm like a camel.
The half marathons. Sorry. Half marathons.
No, half marathon. I don't think I've ever taken anything ever.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there's been a half marathon or two that were unseasonably warm, and I was like just cursing the experience as I'm running it. We've all had these races where you're just like, you sign up for the race, especially if it's a travel race. Like if it's to tease to our next segment talking about bucket list races, if it's an NYC half where it's like, it's a big investment. Going to New York for the weekend, race entries tough to come by and pricey. And you've committed to that one. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. You're going to New York and you're running the race. And then you show up on race day and it's like, usually it's the opposite. Usually it's cold because it's in March, but like maybe it's unseasonably hot and really sunny. And you're like, there's no way I'm going to pull off a great time today. I mean, maybe I've hit the aid station in that context a time or two, but for the most part, yeah, I don't take anything going into it. I take the carb load very seriously. I do the 48 to 36 hour carb load beforehand where I'm very focused on, it's 48 hours. I usually do it for a half marathon. I'll definitely hit Friday, Saturday, and then I'll top my glycogen stores up on a Sunday morning if it's a Sunday morning race, as I would a long run or as I would a marathon race as well. Do the same routine, get up 3 hours beforehand, eat the bagel, have the coffee, take in a bit of sport drink, let the tummy settle. We'll talk about poop.
There it is.
That's honestly my fear that it doesn't happen before a race. That's like actually...
That's everybody's
fear. I wake up and like, all these things need to happen before. Yeah.
Yep.
This is the number one thing that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And if this does not happen, this is the thing that is
then
on
that
your
death
mind.
metal music comes earlier.
Yeah. Then it's death metal in a porta potty.
Oh God.
Yeah. Wow, what an image that is. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I've lost my train of thought.
Well, I think that it's because you guys are fast.
I don't take anything.
You guys are very fast. So the amount of time that you spend within the half marathon maybe isn't necessary.
Yeah.
But when I sit down and talk with my athletes, I mean, if you're going to run a half marathon, even in the hour and 30 minutes, like the 90-minute range, to me, I feel like that's when we really need to think about fueling. So I just did the 10 miler. I ran it in about a little over an hour. I didn't take any fuel during that because I thought, okay, it's a little over an hour. So that's like what Alex, your half marathon would be. So I said, okay, I can do that. I popped a gel 15 minutes before, which I always do before all of my races. So I had something there like that I felt like was just going to be a little boost, even if it's just psychological, that helps me think, okay, I just took this gel. I'm starting the race. I'm ready to go. I did my carb loading. But for someone who's going to take a little longer, you really do need to think about this because your glycogen stores will deplete, right? You've got an hour and something in you. And after that, you're really going to have to worry about keeping that fuel coming so you can continue at the energy level you started at. So for anyone that even who knows how long they're going to take, I would start taking a gel at 30 minutes. So if you're going to take that hour and a half, you could take your first gel at 30 minutes and 45 minutes and then go every half an hour after that. So however long you're going to run that half marathon, just make sure that you are staying fueled. So for a half marathon, I would fuel during a half marathon because I know I'm going to be around that, well, hopefully 1.5 hour mark still. Haven't run one in a little bit. So I would want to take, I want to plan that and take maybe a gel at 30 minutes and then take it at the hour. And then I've already taken 2 gels for that half marathon because I'm going to take longer than around that 90-minute mark.
Yeah, I would say if you're north of 90 minutes for the half marathon, I would say definitely think a little bit about a basic nutrition plan, a basic fueling strategy, a basic gel strategy, where maybe you take 1 or 2 gels.
Can't hurt.
And probably can't hurt. You got to train them in though. We've talked about training your gut. You got to train them in practice. You got to go out and run with them when you're doing those, the lactate threshold or the half marathon pace type efforts within your long run. Try to stick a gel down your gullet and see if it stays in a long run. And then, if it doesn't, you're like, okay, well, I've got next week to work on that one as well. Because it's something that you don't want to leave till race day, right? So, yeah. So I would say, that's, I think, a good rule of thumb. I don't know if this rule of thumb exists outside of the comfy confines of the Marathon Handbook podcast, but we've created a new, one of the half marathon rules. That's a good gimmick we should have come up with for this episode. The half marathon rules. One of them is, one of the commandments of the half marathon is over 90 minutes, bring 1 gel, maybe. Over 2 hours, bring 2 gels or 3 gels. Yeah. Okay, guys. So post-race recovery.
What did you do, Alex?
Oh,
Just like melt at the, there's like
How many
collapse
adult
after
beverages did we have?
more.
Which is not good for
Yeah.
recovery, full disclosure.
If it's, well, 2 versions. Okay, Philly, mid-season, or Houston, end of season. Mid-season, 1 adult beverage. Michael was the chaperone. He was also there waiting. Michael did not have a beverage as he was waiting for his marathon, which happened the next day.
That's right.
That's right.
I kept it clean.
After
Yep.
Houston, more adult beverages, a hot tub, celebratory mode. Recovery otherwise. Enjoy the day after it happens. The half marathon is a hell of an accomplishment. It's a long race. Don't downplay it. People go wild after they finish a marathon. If you ran a really good half, you deserve to celebrate. In the days that follow it, I think if you're mid-season, you probably want to take a couple days off. If you want to keep going and you have a second half marathon on the calendar, after say 3 or 4 days of slight movement, right? It's good to if you take time off, don't just sit on the couch. That's the worst thing you can do. Try to walk, move around, go do something with your family or friends,
Get the
because
blood
something
flowing.
will probably hurt. And the best thing you can do is to passively move at least. So do that for a few days. And then usually on day 4, 5, maybe 3, if you're a quite experienced runner, you might want to head out there and just run a few really easy miles and then just progress into it. In the middle of my season, the week that followed Houston, I ran almost every day, but they were all easy runs. No need to go straight back into workouts. And then after Houston, which was the end of my season, I took a good amount of days off, and now I'm training for something else. Again, this depends on your goals. If you're chasing really fast times, your off time will probably be a little bit shorter. Okay, that's my third brag. There you go. And if you're not, take the week, take 2 weeks, and then rebuild.
Yeah, a week, couple weeks. Definitely, you don't need to take the month that you need to take. I would say is like.
But you still need time.
Yes, you still need time. You still need to take that following week very light, just very easy. If you're one of these people that can't not run, good luck to you. But if you take 1 day off, force yourself, be a professional, be a grown up, take a day off after your goal race. For sure. And then run easy, very easy when you're running, and run just on just 30 minutes, just a flush run, just to get the blood flowing through your legs. Very easy. Don't worry about paces. Don't worry about Strava. Don't worry about annual averages.
Oh, goodness.
Oh God.
Oh,
okay.
no. I was wrecked after my 10 miler, and it wasn't even a half marathon. My legs were toast. I couldn't run well I felt better Saturday. So an entire week later, I was like, okay, maybe I'm starting to get my legs back. So you really need that time because you're putting your body through a lot. So no matter what, you're going to be sore. You're really going to need to take that recovery time so you can just come back and start training again without any injuries or overtraining or burnout or anything like that.
Before we go to the break, one burning question that I've been thinking about as you guys have been talking and even as I was talking myself for the last 3 minutes. Alex, you mentioned the hot tub. Hot tubs, overrated, properly rated, underrated. You guys hot tub people?
Depends who you're sharing the hot tub with. But in general, underrated. I love hot tubs.
So if you're sharing the hot tub with Katelyn and I.
Are we podcasting as it happens?
Do people do hot tubs in Costa Rica?
I was just gonna say, you made my wheels start turning, and I was like, I don't remember the last time I've been in a hot tub. The last time I was in a hot tub was when I ran the marathon in New Hampshire, and the Airbnb had a hot tub, and it was freezing cold. So we would just go in the hot tub to warm our bodies because the temperatures were so cold. But no, I've done a couple cold plunges here in Costa Rica. We've got those cold tubs. Yeah. But I haven't been in a hot tub in a really, really long time. And it's not very common to have bathtubs here. So in none of the places I've lived, I've never really had a bathtub. So I haven't even thought to take a nice, relaxing hot bath.
You a hot bath guy, Sierra?
Haven't taken a hot bath in a long time. I think the last time I took a hot
Candles.
bath, there were bubbles, and my mom was present.
Yeah.
Lavender.
A rubber ducky. A rubber ducky.
Those little toys that stick onto the tub.
Yeah.
Some floaty letters.
Yep,
Yeah.
1999, baby.
19. Okay, that was your fourth brag. Mute him, Michael.
That's shameful. I was at the Dollar Cinema watching Fight Club and then going to get a beer afterwards with my college friends. Okay.
All right. Well,
on that note, let's take a break, and then when we come back, let's go vacation mode. Let's talk about bucket list half marathons and some half marathons that we've perhaps done in the past that are of note, that are worth traveling for, worth doing. And if you're lucky enough to have one in your backyard, which ones you enjoy. And then finally, we're going to close it out by rebranding the half marathon. It will no longer be known as the half marathon. All the real ones that listen and watch this podcast. It's like Skull and Bones. We'll have like a code, would be like I'm doing a blank this weekend. And then there'll be the nod and the yes. We know. Okay, we'll be right back. And we are back. Just enjoyed a little brief session in the Marathon Handbook hot tub. Feeling covered. More of a sauna guy, got to admit. More of a sauna guy.
Oh, hot take.
you like to sit and sweat?
You can't pee.
Just sitting in someone else's sweat, am I right?
Just come to Costa Rica. You can sit and sweat on my deck.
Costa Rica.
You don't need a sauna.
the state version of a hot tub, or of a sauna, rather. Okay, bucket list half marathons. First question for both of you. Is a half marathon worth traveling for? Have you ever done it before? Is it worth doing? Alex, we already know.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Of course
I've
it
traveled.
is.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely worth it. Of course.
I would say so. Yeah. Is every distance worth traveling for? Is a 5K worth traveling for?
They're all worth traveling for if it's your main race.
Yeah, I would say so too. If it's a cool enough race, it's definitely worth traveling for, right? So
track athletes travel for 100 meters.
I know. 60 meters indoors, right?
Or yeah. So of course it's worth it.
Yeah. So bucket list races. Let's just do a little lightning round here. We'll start with you, Alex. You've already run Houston. You recommend that one, right? You like that one. You've done it twice.
Yeah. Let me preface it by saying that I'm on the hunt for fast half marathons. That's been my game. So my recommendations are the fast ones. My big half marathon goal this year is to get into the Valencia half marathon. And yes, there's an elite section, but there's also a full half marathon. It's known to be, along with Houston, the fastest half marathon in the world. And so that is on my bucket list. And I would encourage anyone who A, wants to go to Spain, and also B, wants a fast time to consider it. There's also the Barcelona half. Those Spanish races are just like flat
Barcelona
and fast.
sounds pretty good.
That sounds amazing.
You get to go to a cool part of the world. Those ones I would really like. And then I've been looking at the Copenhagen half because I hear good things. This year, they're actually hosting a world championship for world athletics, like the World Road Running Championships. My God, that's a mouthful. And you know that a race is good and well organized when it can be considered by a huge governing body as a place to host. So those are bucket list items. Philly was on the bucket list. Really enjoyed Philly. If you're American or Canadian and want something local, that's an awesome race weekend. You can go there, run the half, stick around, watch your friend do the full the next day. It was a fun one too.
Heckle him
as he's cursing your name.
You're doing great. You're
tossing
almost
his gloves
there.
your way.
You only have like 12 miles left.
Oh my gosh, that's the worst.
I thought of tossing you you're almost there at mile 9, Michael, but
if you would have said you're almost there at mile 9, I would have just to hell with this race. I'm just going to go strangle Alex here right now.
Don't give up.
What the hell is going on? Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Yeah. Pick it or pick it up. Pick it up. I'm running a marathon.
Pick it up.
Yeah. Faster.
You can say that in a half marathon. Is the half marathon the threshold for like quasi heckling someone to run quicker? Is that fair?
Ugh.
Yeah, even then, I think it's
Any
inappropriate.
race.
You're probably already topping out.
Yeah, which, like, has it ever happened that a fan was like, pick it up, and then a runner turned and said, oh, good
Yeah, sure.
idea.
Great.
I'm going to go faster. Doesn't happen.
Yeah. I think some of my half marathons that I would like to run overlap with yours, Alex, because there is this like Abbott, you like the World Marathon Majors, but there's this one called the Super Halves, and I have a couple of my athletes
In Europe,
yeah, in Europe, and so it's Lisbon, Prague, Berlin, Copenhagen, which you mentioned, Cardiff, and Valencia. So those all seem super fun. And I have one of my athletes is ticking them all off, and she's working towards all of them. I have actually 2 athletes who are going to do Prague this year. And so those just sound super fun. And continuing on fun, because I would probably choosing the half marathon, not for as flat as it can be, used to running hilly half marathons here in Costa Rica. I would like to run one of the rock and roll half marathons, obviously, because that sounds like so much fun. So there's one in Vegas. That'd be fun. And there's one in Madrid as well, as far as I know, a couple in California. So a bunch of those sound fun. And I've got an athlete who has run the one in San Jose, California. Not Costa Rica. That would be fun if we had one here. And so I think I would really like to do a rock and roll half marathon at some point.
New York City half. NYC
Classic.
Half. NYC half is branded in March. Coming up. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a fun one to watch. Always an amazing elite field. Not the easiest course. It used to be it was also not an easy course. It used to start in Central Park and finish at Battery Park down in the south end of Manhattan in the financial district near Wall Street. It now runs from Brooklyn, from Prospect Park, I believe, all the way up and through and finishes in Central Park now, which is nice. Hilly course, go over a bridge, run through. It's one of 2 times in the year. We've talked about this in a previous podcast. One of 2 times in the year where the city of New York grants the exception and closes down Times Square, which is nuts. And it's just, it's the weirdest experience to run through Times Square. It's so strange. The other time, of course, being New Year's Eve when it's closed down. So not the New York City Marathon. So really cool running experience. Highly recommend that one. I've done it a few times. Really like the overall excuse to go to New York, you know. I ran a half marathon in Patagonia in southern Chile once.
Cool. Beautiful.
Was it a trail race?
It was a dirt road, 90-kilometer an hour howling headwind experience.
Oh.
Beautiful though. Beautiful vistas. Mm-hmm. Really cool experience. Great excuse to be in that part of the world. It still exists. I just look it up. It's in Torres del Paine. Paine. Help me out here.
Wow, are you Spanish?
Torres del Paine.
That's the one, which is the national park there, which is incredible.
It's gorgeous.
If you ever want, just go. Absolutely go. It's
have to go.
One of
It's
the
a
greatest
bucket
places
list
on earth. It's crazy. These super halves are an interesting concept. Mm-hmm. Obviously, let's talk about rebranding in a second. It just gave me an idea. Audience, please shower the comment section on YouTube and Spotify with your recommendations for great half marathons. We want to hear what you think is worth traveling for, your favorite local race. I think one of the special things about the half is a little bit of obviously half the distance, a little bit of an easier thing for a local organizer to put together. There's all kinds of really good local halves, right? Alex and I both live in Toronto, Southern Ontario. There's any number of really solid half marathons that are out there. And, you know, every big and small town in America has a decent half marathon for the most part. Okay, guys, final thing. Actually, before that, the half marathon is not in the Olympics. Should it be? And this is a late, deep into the podcast. We're burying this, so we're in a safe space, guys. Only our real fans listen this far into a podcast, into this podcast. So no one else is listening except for those who we know and trust. should it replace the marathon in the Olympics?
Good God. No.
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 Wow. Even Alex is like,
No. No,
Oh,
you can't. You can't
like,
take
no,
the marathon
no.
away. Of course you can't. No, you would have to just add the half.
should it be in the Olympics?
I would like to see it in the Olympics.
Me too.
I think that would be really cool in the
Yes.
Olympics. There's a distance, such an awesome distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd
when
get rid of the 10,000 meters and I would add this instead.
So I have this current conversation with like a bunch of people in the last couple of weeks because when they ask me about Houston and I tell them about my time and they recognize like, oh, that's quick. If they're not necessarily from the running world, or even if they're kind of in the running world, they'll say like, how close are you to making the Olympics? Which the answer is not close. But the real answer is, well, I could never make it anyway in the half marathon because it's not an Olympic event. And everyone is just floored. Everyone
Oh,
thinks
right.
that it's an Olympic thing.
Right.
I think
It's so popular.
I think the challenge with putting the half marathon in the Olympics, it's that it would exacerbate a problem, a good problem, but a problem nonetheless that we're already seeing. And that's the dilution of talent across a bunch of different races. Some of the most, some of the best runners in the world. This is its own pod.
of
This
that.
is tapping into a rich vein of thought here because I'm just like, imagine Sifan Hassan at the 2028 Olympics. She's just going to be like, you know what? The Olympics open with the half marathon and close with the marathon. Maybe I'm just going to win both.
She would do that too.
Yeah, she would.
Yeah.
But anyone
That would be
else could
sick.
not double. It would be super cool.
How about you get like a double gold medal if you win both? Like, you know, like when you run like these, there's like the challenge, like the dopey challenge or whatever.
yeah, I
Like,
was
there should
gonna
be
say,
the
yeah.
Olympic
Dopey
equivalent.
challenge.
It'd be like just a bigger gold medal.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think it would be really, I think they need to include it in the Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely
I hope that
agree.
happens.
I can't believe I'm saying this because I do love the distance track events, but I think they should drop the 10,000 and they should add the half marathon. It just makes a whole lot more sense from like just a marketing perspective. Like think about the Olympics being something that, at least for track and field, some of these events you have done at some point in your life. So you have this like weird armchair, like, oh, I once ran a 1,500 meters in middle school, or I've run a marathon, you know, I'm a recreational runner. I've done a 4-hour marathon or whatever. It's like these people are so amazing at what they're doing and I'm watching it in the Olympics and that's really cool. The half marathon, it's even theoretically, even more people have run a half marathon than a marathon, right? So very relatable. I don't know, you know, trying to help the IOC make more money here, guys. I'm just trying.
Let's write a letter.
Yeah. Let's write a letter. Yeah. Start a petition.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a cool idea. It's its own pod topic. Okay, we'll put a pin on it for now. Final thing. Okay. MH Branding Agency. What do you guys got? Let's change it from half marathon. Let's give it its own identity. This is not fair to the half marathon. The half marathon didn't deserve this.
No,
It's like the
it's
little
not
sibling.
less than. Yeah, exactly. It's not the little brother, the little sister to the marathon. It needs to have its own thing. And I think that before we mention our ideas, I think we also need to open it up. This is another thing the audience needs to comment on. They need to give us their ideas. We're going to need help because I don't know how great my ideas are.
No, yeah. I'm just like,
I have zero
can't believe I
confidence
did
in
this to
myself.
myself here. Yeah, it's like, oh boy. Okay, Sear, you go first.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So if we go with metrics and math like we have done so far, I think we have to change it from the half marathon to the double 10K and one.
No, because
Quarter marathon is the 10K. You know,
now you're making the 10K then feel bad because now then it's going to be like, oh, I'm not a double 10K. I'm just a 10K.
This is the issue I have with the ultra marathon, by the way.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, so double 10K is that's a pass. All right, let's go with number
Sorry.
two. Number two is this would apply more so for the elites, but it's a clock lap. You know how fast you can go in an hour. So you got to do it. You're doing a clock lap.
Oh. Huh.
Now I'm hearing it. There's like the word clap, like clap.
The clap.
It's like a crab clapping. No, pass.
Clock lap.
I'm going to
Pass.
Lisbon for the clap.
For the clap, the clapping your claws. Okay, no, that's a pass. Okay, number three. This is a bit more inclusive because everyone falls into that zone. Threshold throwdown. The only problem with that one is
Suddenly, Katelyn and I are feeling a lot better about what we come up with.
I like
mine might work.
So I like the threshold throwdown.
Or how about
It's
just
very
like
real.
the threshold? No, but that's not fair to people who are running like a 2-hour half marathon. That's like
'cause
most people. Like, what's the
Not
average
threshold.
half marathon?
But everyone, I think, dips into threshold pace at some
At
point.
some
See,
point.
my issue with that is that it would be hard to make it sound official. Like, imagine Seb Coe announcing the World Athletics Half Marathon Championship.
The
And
World
it'd be like,
Athletics.
oh, the threshold throwdown of 2027 will happen in Lisbon, Portugal. Like, you can't make it sound
That's
like
your Seb,
not
that's
a
your
UFC
Seb Coe,
fight.
just
That's
some stuffy old Englishman. Yeah, fair enough. Actually,
My Seb Coe's the same
He
as
is a
my King
lord.
Charles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm not even going to go there.
So that's what I got.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Mine are not good, guys.
Really, I had
Mine-
high hopes for you, Alex.
Mine are, yeah, me too, because mine are very boring because I have a big dilemma with mine because mine are just very straightforward, but I'm going to get a fight between the metric and the imperial system because just, the 13-1 or
Just the
the 21-2.
It's 21-1.
is it 21-1?
Oh, 21-1.
Like,
What is it?
Close.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
21.1.
The 21-1. Sorry. So what would it be? The 13-2. Help me, guys.
13.1 and 21.1. It's
13. So the 13-1.
26.2 and 42.195, which is very,
Extremely
very
awkward.
awkward. Yeah.
So the 13-1 or the 21-1, but then we have the metric, and should it be in metric? Should it be in imperial? Because you can't say the 21K.
This is the problem.
This is the problem. So those are the ones that I had. The painfully fun one.
What about like
Painfully fun one.
I was just kidding. That's just
Painfully
just kidding.
fun.
Oh, it's painfully fun. No.
How about like
what do we call
just
it?
the
Blackjack?
21?
The 21.
Blackjack.
Blackjack?
Oh,
21 's the
blackjack.
blackjack. We're going to go with gambling. It's a bit weird. I
Um,
don't know. How about just like the 21 or the
the 21.
13?
Yeah.
But then this is why the marathon is so brilliant. It's got this brand to it that, I mean, it's just the name of a town
Wait.
in Greece. Is
Sorry,
there a
I have it.
town? Got
Yes,
it.
that's
Got it.
okay. You're going the same way. You're thinking the same thing. What's a
Halfway
town
between Greece and
in Marathon?
Yeah.
A town that's 13 miles away from Athens.
look it up. Well,
Oh,
I'll
go.
vamp for you while
Okay.
you look it up.
Michael, what do you have? Help us, please, because we are
Yeah, I was
dying
thinking like
here.
the 21 or the 13.
Yeah.
Then I started thinking, I was like, okay, there's the marathon, there's the ultra marathon or the ultra. What if we call it, and what if we call it the super? Just call it a super.
Just
This
the
is
super.
This is a super. The super. It's kind of a play on the super halves thing. That's that
Mm-hmm.
series in Europe of high quality half marathons. We call it the super. We allow them to feel like they've created it, even though they just came up with like a corny Euro name, the super halves. But, or maybe we're overthinking this, guys. Maybe it's just called the half and we drop the marathon and we never talk about marathon again in reference to the half marathon. And it's just a half.
The half.
The half. It's
What
a half.
about the city where the first half marathon was held then? What was that, Alex?
The town in Luxembourg? We'll call
Luxembourg.
it the Luxembourg.
It's in Remich. Luxembourg.
Remich?
Remich.
The Remich.
The Rem.
A rem. A rem isn't bad.
Lux. What about, okay, I found some Greek cities
Okay.
that are 13 miles away from Athens.
Go.
Yeah.
Here's one, Elefsina, located in the
Pretty.
west of the city, known for its mysteries and classical antiquity, okay? Then there's also Salamina, which
These are mouthfuls.
Yeah, too long.
island.
Too long.
Is the island connected? Okay, it's on an island. And then there's Marousi, which is suburbia. The Salamina Scramble. What about that?
I'm going to go do a Marusi. That Marusi really kicked my ass. Yeah, maybe not.
We need
Okay,
help,
we need
audience.
help.
We need
Yes,
a
we'll
lot of
turn-
help.
We'll turn this to you. What should we call, what should we rebrand the half marathon so that it has its own unique identity? Okay. On that note, let's wrap this up. That was more than a half marathon's worth of podcasting. I can
Yes, it
guarantee
was.
that one. And all right, so if you don't already subscribe to our YouTube channel, please by all means do so, and you will get notification. Turn the notifications on. You will get notifications of all of our new content. I feel an avalanche of content on our YouTube channel coming very, very soon. I know, because in the back end we've been working away like little running elves producing content in the Marathon Handbook studios. Also, please provide a rating and review this podcast. It helps us reach people like yourself, and we forget to self-promote. But if you're here still listening, now is the opportunity as we close this thing out. And subscribe to the newsletter. Of course, goes out every single day of the week, and is piloted by our teammate Jesse, as well as the one and only Katelyn Tocci as well. And we've got another little podcast project that we've been quietly soft launching the last few weeks. Jesse and I have been doing a weekly news hit. It's shorter. It's like we're trying to get it in around. We're trying our damnedest to get in under 20 minutes. It's always like hovering around 22, 23 minutes. We hit what we see as the 5 most compelling stories of the week. It's kind of like a weekly recap show about what's going on in the world of running. And that drops on Mondays. We're going to move it, I hope, to Monday first thing in the morning, and its own feed eventually in the springtime as races start. But for now, it's coming out Monday, usually Monday evenings. It drops in, and we're putting it for now into this feed. So you get an extra. You get 2 podcasts for the price of one. For the price of one, which is $0.00. All right, gang.
Alrighty.
We did it. We've crossed the finish line of the Morosi,
Super.
the
13-1.
the lactate, whatever. Okay.
Ooh, great one to start off. Okay.
And on that note, until next week.
Bye.
See you later, gang.